So what would you hope to accomplish if you're elected to a city council seat?
Well, sort of piggybacking on that, I think generally speaking, with all the events, you see this craziness in Wisconsin. You see craziness. I was listening to the radio this morning, setting in Ohio. I don't think we can be so blind as to think that it's not possible that State House in Indianapolis doesn't end up being some kind of circus like the rest of these have in recent days or weeks. And I think as a city, we need to be cognizant of that and looking forward a little bit to say, kind of what if? What if this happens? What if the state of Indiana, which to this point has dodged, at least publicly, has dodged a lot of the bullets that other states have in, the state of Wisconsin is broke. I haven't really heard anybody say that about Indiana, but I think we'd be naive to think that it couldn't happen. So to that extent, I think the city as a city, we need to prepare for that or be prepared for that in the extent that a little bit of a back to basics things, making sure that our municipal house is in order, to be that clean, accessible, safe, well put together, well maintained city that we're ready for if the day comes when tax receipts sent back to the city of Fort Wayne are not what they once were, that we're prepared for that, and I think a lot of the talk on city light lease stuff is a hot topic these days, and I think we're a little too quick to go to the how do we spend this money sort of mentality. That's not to say that money to a certain degree couldn't be put to productive use. I think it's a little too quick to say, well, we've got, 44 million, if not now, soon, and then, you've got annual payments after that. Let's figure out some way let's do something with this. I think it's a little quick to get that far. I'd like to see us keep ourselves a little more, like I said, a little more back to basics and avoid jumping after the next big ticket thing. We've had a lot of big ticket things in this town, and I'm not saying they're not good. I mean, I enjoy going to a ball game as much as anybody, but I think we need to tread pretty lightly going forward in order to make sure that the critical things that are going to continue to make this town accessible to people and to business specifically. Let's figure out a way to maintain it. Let's figure out a way to make this the cheapest place to run a business anywhere in the Midwest. I mean, we are centrally located to about every major metropolitan hub in the whole region. Let's make it to the point where if you're looking to locate a business someplace, in whether it's Fort Wayne or it's Toledo or it's Dayton or anybody else, if we're the cheapest, cleanest, safest town in the world to operate in, how could you not give us a fair shake? And I think just jumping head over heels into something else that potentially logs us down with a little bit more debt load, I don't think that's exactly the route we want to go in. That's not to say that there aren't capital expenditures that are going to happen, but I think we need to kind of slow down just a little bit. We've got an awful lot of stuff, particularly in the Fifth, downtown specifically. A lot of big ticket stuff, and we look pretty nice. Everybody's pretty much on board, but let's kind of slow it down just a hair. And that's not to say that we don't want more activity, because obviously we do. But let's make sure that our house is in order for the long term, and take a little bit longer view at things, as opposed to thinking, in the light lease example, well, we've got $40 some odd million here burning a hole in our pocket. Let's find some way to unload it. I think we need to be a little bit more deliberate in for that example and how we deal with that. That's not to say that it's not going to be an evenly measured bit of thought into what goes into it, but it's just an example of something where, if it's the water park's the one that always gets brought up over and over again, but I think we ought to consider things quite a bit before we decide that we're going to go ahead and build a water park for somebody to come in and operate. I think that would not necessarily be in the best interest of the community at large and the 5th District specifically.
Anything else you'd like to throw out there, talk about, mention?
I don't know. This it was an interesting opportunity that came about with this. Obviously, Mr. Pape deciding not to run makes it a lot easier for a lot of people to get into this race. You don't have an incumbent to deal with. I don't have your two primary Democratic front runners in May Johnson or Jeff Paddock. I don't have the specific name recognition that those folks do. They've both kind of been in the public eye for a number of years. Jeff is, I've known him a little bit from running the park over there, and so I'll run into him now and then. And May Johnson was, did a couple of 2 terms, I believe, on county council. So they've had their name out there before. As far as elected office goes, I think you'd asked me about my mom. So my mom was on council, so there's maybe a little bit of precedent set there. But it was just a heck of a interesting opportunity to get into it, kind of get off the sidelines and do something instead of just continuing to complain about it and offer my 2 cents into the equation. I relish big-time learning opportunities. Like I had mentioned, a couple of years with the bank, a remarkable learning opportunity. I mean, an understanding of how business works outside of a textbook or reading about it, listening about it, when you actually get in and see the nuts and bolts of how things work, of how financial markets work. A world of difference compared to formal schooling. And I don't purport to be the end-all be-all for knowledge on the inner workings of the city council. I would be potentially setting myself up to make a fool of myself if I would do so. But I pay attention primarily before this because for somewhat selfish reasons, we got a business to operate here. And like I said, it's important that this city at large continues to prosper. Otherwise, we don't have customers, and we better go find something else to do. But a heck of an opportunity to get out there and get into something that I truly find interesting, just as a sidelines guy. And even more so, I think, if I'm so lucky to pass the test in November. I guess I probably shouldn't say that. I suppose I need to get at least one person to vote for me, I think, in May. So I better not forget. But a really neat opportunity that I think, and everybody says the same thing, but it's true. Really. Get in and learn and offer my perspective to things, I think is not only just for the opportunity itself. I think it would truly be fun. I find stuff like that just remarkably interesting to really understand at a deep level how things work and the inner workings. I think it'd be a heck of a good time. I'd really enjoy it.
Well, Ben, we appreciate your time. Wish you well. I think you'll get more than one vote in the primary.
Well, my wife is registered as well.
There you
go.
And
I think my grandma said that she'd do it too.
Well, there you go. Well, we appreciate your time today.
Sure.